All right, let's jump right in. We're going to talk about something that affects, get this, billions of people around the world, but most of them have probably never even heard its name. It's called Toxoplasmosis, and it's this really common parasite that, for the most part, is totally harmless, but sometimes it can be incredibly dangerous.
So, to kick things off, let me ask you a question. What could your cat, a nice juicy steak, cooked rare of course, and a bit of gardening possibly have in common? I mean, they sound totally random, right? Well, there's an invisible thread that connects all three, and they're all potential pathways for the tiny parasite we're diving into today.
And the answer to that little puzzle is, you guessed it, toxoplasmosis. It's an infection that comes from a tiny single-celled organism called Toxoplasma gondii. This is what scientists call a zoonoses, which is just a fancy way of saying it's an infection that jumps from animals to people. And this thing is found literally everywhere on the planet. It's got to be one of the most successful parasites ever.
Okay, so how does this whole thing work?
Well, you have to look at its life cycle, which is, well, it's fascinating, but also a little bit creepy. The main character in this story, the cat. Cats are what's known as the definitive host, and what that means is that the gut of a cat is the only place this parasite can, well, get it on and reproduce. After that, the cat sheds millions of these super tough parasite eggs. They're called oocysts in its poop. These things can then hang out in the soil or water for more than a year, just waiting. So then other animals, like a sheep or a cow, come along and accidentally eat them. The parasite then forms these little cysts in their muscles, and that's where we come in. We can get infected in two main ways, either by eating undercooked meat that has those cysts in it, or, you guessed it, by accidentally getting those oocysts from the soil on our hands, maybe from gardening, and not washing up properly.
But here's where it gets kind of weird. Even though this parasite is everywhere, for the huge majority of people who get it, nothing happens. It's a completely silent infection. It's like having a house guest that your immune system keeps locked in the basement for the rest of your life. You don't even know they're there.
Yeah, get this. Estimates say that only about 10 to 20% of healthy adults who get infected ever show any symptoms at all. That means a whopping 80 to 90% of people who have it have absolutely no clue, and that's why it just completely flies under the radar for most of us.
And even for that small group of people who do feel something, the symptoms are usually super mild. We're talking things you'd easily brush off. A slight fever, feeling tired for a while, maybe some swollen glands in your neck, a headache, muscle aches. You know, it basically feels like a weak case of the flu. And for a healthy person, your body just fights it off on its own. No treatment needed.
Okay, so you're probably thinking, if it's so mild, why are we even doing a whole explainer on it, right? Well, here's why. Because for two very specific groups, this thing that's a total non-issue for most of us becomes a serious, life-threatening danger. This is where the story takes a really dramatic turn.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly. It really is a tale of two completely different infections. On one hand, you have a healthy person. It's usually no symptoms, quick recovery, no big deal. But on the other hand, for a developing fetus or someone with a compromised immune system, the story is completely different. We're talking about the potential for severe birth defects, damage to the brain, serious eye infections that can cause blindness, and in some cases, it can even be fatal. It's the exact same parasite, but it's the person's immune system that changes the entire game.
And if you want to put that danger into perspective, check out this statistic. For patients with AIDS, whose immune systems are really struggling, this dormant parasite can suddenly wake up. And when it does, it's responsible for half of all their neurological issues. Half! So you see, it's a classic opportunistic infection. It just waits for the body's defenses to be down, and then it strikes.
All right, now let's talk about that other high-risk group, an unborn baby. And with this, it is all about timing. The real danger, what's called congenital toxoplasmosis, happens when a woman gets infected for the very first time during her pregnancy. See, if she's never had it before, her body has no built-in defenses, so the parasite can slip right across the placenta and infect the fetus. And the earlier in the pregnancy this happens, the more severe the potential damage can be.
So obviously the stakes can be incredibly high for some people. Which begs the question, how do doctors figure out what's going on? How do they know if someone has an active infection or if they're at risk? Well, that brings us to diagnosis.
The main tool they use is a simple blood test that looks for antibodies. Now here's an easy way to think about it. You've got two types they look for, IgM and IgG. Think of the IgM antibodies as the first responders. If they show up, it means there's a recent, active infection happening right now. The IgG antibodies, though, they're more like the Army veterans. If you have those, but not the IgM,
It means you had the infection a long time ago, and your body has built up immunity. And that's exactly why pregnant women get screened for this stuff, to figure out where they stand.
But what happens in those tricky situations, like when a pregnant woman's test comes back positive for both types of antibodies? Well, then the doctors have a critical question to answer. When did this infection happen? To figure that out, they can use a more specialized test. It basically measures how sticky those veteran IgG antibodies are. Newer antibodies are less sticky, older ones are super sticky. And by measuring that, they can get a much better idea of the timeline, which is absolutely crucial for figuring out the risk to the baby.
And if treatment is needed, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. It's totally tailored to the patient. For a pregnant woman, the #1 goal is protecting the fetus, so they'll often use a special antibiotic that's really good at building up in the placenta, kind of creating a barrier to stop the parasite from crossing over. But for someone with a compromised immune system who has a severe active infection, they bring out the big guns, a powerful combo of drugs designed to hunt down and kill the parasite everywhere in the body.
Okay, now for what is probably the most important part of this whole thing. After hearing all that, you're probably wondering, how do I protect myself? How do I protect my family? And the great news is, prevention is actually really simple and super effective. So let's get into the practical stuff.
Building your shield against this parasite really comes down to a few simple rules. Rule number 1, cook your meat all the way through. Heat kills those cysts, so no more pink in the middle. Rule number 2, wash your fruits and veggies really well to get rid of any dirt and any parasites hiding in it. And rule number 3, the one we all know, wash your hands, especially after you've been handling raw meat or digging in the garden. And of course, for anyone in a higher risk group, like pregnant women, there's that extra rule. Stay away from the cat's litter box. If you absolutely have to clean it, wear gloves and wash up thoroughly right after. It's these simple habits that truly make all the difference.
So, in the end, yeah, this parasite is pretty much everywhere. It's a part of our world. But the key takeaway here is that we are absolutely not powerless against it. Just a little bit of awareness and a few simple precautions are all it takes to prevent what could otherwise be a really serious infection. And that kind of leaves us with one last question to chew on. If something this common is so easy to avoid just by being mindful, what other invisible risks might we be overlooking in our everyday lives?